All right, time now to take a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France. And I'm joined by Clément Bonnereau. Hi, Clément.
Hi, Will.
Beginning with this ongoing row between French President Emmanuel Macron and the military.
That's right, and right-wing newspaper Le Figaro is particularly critical of the French president this morning. Just take a look at their front page. Macron, la fin de l'état de grâce. Is this the end of Macron's honeymoon period? So far, Emmanuel Macron has wooed commentators, both at home and abroad, standing up against Vladimir Putin, taking the lead in the fight against climate change, and securing an absolute majority in parliament. But now the hard work begins, writes Le Figaro. Macron must deliver on his promise to reform the country and unite France.
So what could go wrong for the president?
Well, Le Figaro writes that Macron faces huge challenges as he tries to implement some of his policies. He's announced ambitious plans to reform labour laws, cut taxes for businesses and cut thousands of civil service jobs. Many of these measures are actually quite controversial, and the latest row with the head of the armed forces, Pierre de Villiers, who announced he was stepping down earlier this week, could significantly weaken his position.
Another one of the challenges facing Macron is his attempt to clean up French politics. American viewers might think of that as cleaning up the swamp, if you will. But the bill, which is to be going before Parliament Monday next week, already stirring up debate.
That's right, and left-wing daily Libération is calling it a brain teaser or a headache on its front page. The main problem is that most MPs for Emmanuel Macron's Republic on the Move party are relatively new to politics. Many actually come from the private sector, and there are fears that conflicts of interest could arise unless adequate vetting measures are put in place.
Libération goes a step further, though, suggesting that nothing will happen to actually prevent those conflicts of interest.
That's right. The left-wing paper says that France is and has always been in denial about rampant corruption and conflicts of interest. The new law to, quote, restore confidence in political action does not propose any measures to tackle this issue and effectively limits the influence of lobbies. For instance, under the proposed law, MPs will be able to combine their work in Parliament with paid positions in the private sector. Libération concludes conflicts of interests à la française have a bright future.
All right, moving on now to the National Front, the far-right party, having a meeting this week. They aim to rebuild the party in the wake of its poor performance in the presidential and legislative election.
That's right. The leader of the National Front, Marine Le Pen, says the party needs to change many things, including its name, which many voters still associate with Marine Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, and the party's anti-Semitic roots. Marine Le Pen also says the party should consult its members. The National Front will send out a questionnaire to help decide what the party's official position should be on issues such as the euro and the possibility of leaving the European Union.
And the National Front really facing a dilemma here, isn't it?
That's right. Les Echos says the party finds itself between a rock and a hard place. If the National Front goes back on its promise to ditch the euro and leave the European Union, then it won't be credible as a party that defends France's national interests and national sovereignty. If it doesn't do that, however, it risks scaring off many voters, many of whom fear that leaving the euro would have a negative impact on their lives.
All right, and many papers suggesting that heads may roll. This is the land of the guillotine after all.
That's right. Le Parisien reports that the party is extremely divided. The vice president of the party, Florian Philippot in particular, has been held responsible for Marine Le Pen's defeat in the presidential election. Many say he's become too influential in the party, and many are calling for his resignation.
And we end with a Tour de France, of course, and the French doing particularly well this season, aren't they?
That's right. Aujourd'hui en France says this year's Tour de France is already unforgettable. The French cyclist Romain Barguil won the 18th stage of the competition in the French Alps and now looks set to keep the polka dot jersey. Meanwhile, Romain Bardet is expected to come second overall, right behind Britain's Chris Froome. Le Parisien says this is France's best performance in the Tour de France in at least 15 years.
We'll be watching this weekend. Clément Bonnereau with a roundup of the French headlines. That's the news for now. Please stay tuned to France 24.